Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for July 26th through August 1st. This week I read 2 books, I watched 1 show, I watched 1 movie, and I listened to 2 books. Just to get the sappy thing that I think is pretty cool out of the way, this is video 500 in this series, which means I've been making these videos for 500 weeks now, which means come January I've been doing this for 10 years straight, which I think is pretty cool, and if you think it's pretty cool you can tell me down in the comments below. Okay, let's get on to it. The first book that I read this week concerns somebody who has a YouTube channel, and that's Julie Chan is Dead. This is about 2 twins who didn't actually grow up together. They were separated when they were quite young because their parents died, and one of the twins was adopted by an affluent family, and the other twin went to stay with her aunt, who didn't really like her mother and therefore hasn't really treated her very nicely. Julie, the one adopted by the aunt, has always wanted to reconnect with her sister, and that did happen once in adulthood, but it wasn't exactly what she was expecting, so it was very strange when she suddenly gets a call from her sister. This call is so concerning that she decides to travel to New York City to her sister's penthouse to figure out what's going on, and when she gets there there's a series of terrible decisions that happen. But as we're told from the very beginning of the book, she did not kill her twin sister. This one went from, what if I do this one little thing that people already think is a truth and make it into a truth, to, oh, okay, things are really messed up. And then it just kept doing that over and over and over again. This one got really weird really quickly, but all of that being said, I enjoyed my time with it. Next, I read Books, Iced Coffee, and A Side of Dragons. This is a graphic novel that comes out later this month, so I read it on NetGalley. The art in this one is absolutely beautiful and adorable. It's about these 2 sapphics. One of them owns a bookstore and one of them owns a coffee stand. They each have dragons because in this world having a pet dragon is like having a pet cat or a pet dog. And this is kind of told in vignettes of their time together. So we see little things happening in the bookstore or at the coffee stand or around the small town they live in New Jersey. And altogether it's just a lovely, beautiful, delightful time. There is a plot that carries you through, but the plot isn't really the point of this book. It's all the adventures we have along the way. As for the shows I watched this week, I watched 3 more episodes of Future Man, and it's very funny because early on there was a kind of throwaway comment by the main character's mother, something to the effect of how he used to put on her heels and walk around in them. And I turned to my roommate and said, that better come back later, and she says, oh, that comes back later. And that came back later in one of these episodes. And I was quite pleased with that whole episode, actually. We learned some things about some characters that we didn't previously know. We figured out that some assumptions that were made were incorrect. And I think we had an entire episode pretty much without the main character because there was a whole thing where people went to live in the past. And it was just fun. The one movie I watched this week is The Dink. Going into this, I didn't know anything about pickleball besides it was played on a smaller court than tennis. It's really popular in my area, and when you actually hit the pickleball it makes kind of a dinking sound, to the point where it gets talked about on the radio. But this movie is all about this middle-aged man who coaches at a tennis club and used to have a dream of going pro. However, there was one very particularly bad match where he ended up hurting his wrist, and even though he had this great career ahead of him, it didn't work out that way. At this tennis club there's a small minority of people that would like to have more space for pickleball, and so there's going to be a vote on whether or not that's going to happen. And it turns out the charter of the club actually has it so that if there is a dispute you can actually just put it down to a match of tennis to figure out whether or not something is going to happen. And he really wants to prove to his dad, who runs the club, that he is up for the task of defending tennis to their dying days. However, he hurts his wrist again, and on the side his doctor tells him that actually something to get back into playing tennis is actually playing pickleball, so he ends up doing that with some elderly ladies. And there's one woman in particular who is quite beautiful, quite charming, recently divorced, and he starts falling for her. I liked pretty much everything about this movie. I saw where certain things were going to go and I started rooting for certain things, and then how they actually worked out was even better than I thought. Also, there were certain parts of this movie where Megan and I were like, oh, later in the movie this is going to be a plot point, and we were right, and that was just fun. Also, I'm the type of person that loves a sports narrative, even though I don't really play any sports. On to the books I listened to this week, the first one being That's Not My Name. In this one we have 2 narrators. One is a girl who has just woken up in a ditch and doesn't know who she is. Fortunately, the person that finds her is a police officer. While she's at the station trying to get her memory back, this frantic man shows up and says, my teenage daughter is missing, and the cop puts 2 and 2 together and realizes this is probably the daughter, but let's like make sure there's some paperwork involved. Do you have her ID? All of those types of things. The other point of view character in this book is this boy whose girlfriend went missing about 5 weeks ago, and everybody in his small town seems to think that he is responsible for that. He is quite adamant that he did not kill her, but he might be the reason why she left town. However, she would never just leave town and not tell her family about it, so he knows something happened to her. And he is tirelessly looking for her, not only to clear his own name, but because he wants to make sure that she's okay, because he cares for her. You can probably make some assumptions as to how these two narratives are connected. This book did have twists that I did not see coming, and I definitely applaud the author for that because it was done in some very careful ways, and I would definitely recommend reading this one. As for the final audiobook for this week, that was Silverborn, The Mystery of Morrigan Crow. This is the 4th book in the Nevermore series, and I thought it was the end. At this point, it's the end. There hasn't been a 5th book announced. However, with the way this one ended, I can definitely see the author eventually continuing the series. This one only came out last year. Now, being the 4th in a series, I really can't tell you too much about this one, except for I am going to let you know that the title of this one does make a lot of sense, The Mystery of Morrigan Crow, because certain things that happen in this are treated like a mystery novel, and it actually comes up that her friends actually really enjoy mystery novels. One of her friends in particular is very much the type of person who could become a private detective if she wanted to. So when something pretty big happens and it looks like people might blame it on Morrigan given the chance, her friends band together to figure out what actually happened. There's also new characters that are introduced that become quite a big part of Morrigan's story, and of course she has to tell her guardian what she did at the end of the 3rd book, which he definitely doesn't know about yet. All in all, there's just something so special about this series. I really enjoy it, and I can see myself rereading this series. So if we do have to wait many years for a 5th book, not that there's actually been an announcement that there's actually a 5th book happening, I could see myself rereading these in anticipation of that. However, for now, because I do have a spot on my bingo board from hell saying complete 3 series, I'm going to say that I completed this series because I went into this thinking there were only 4 books in the series, there are only 4 books published, and it doesn't seem like there's been an announcement for a 5th book, so I'm gonna take that. If you think that's a little cheeky and I shouldn't do that, let me know about it down in the comments below. We'll discuss whether or not that's allowed. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!